Hey chess fans, Mike here with the Queen City Classic Chess in Schools program, and today's chess video we're going to be looking at a very short game that was played by a former world chess champion by the name of Jose Raul Capablanca. So without further ado, Capablanca is playing with the light pieces and starts off this game with pawn to e4, controlling the center and preparing to develop some of his pieces from the back row. His opponent responds with pawn to e5, taking their fair share of the center and preparing to develop as well. Next we have knight to f3. Capablanca develops the knight and puts some pressure on the e5 pawn. Black responds by defending that pawn with knight to c6. And next Capablanca plays knight to c3, develops his other knight, and now we have the three knights variation. Extra credit for anyone who can post in the comments below why they call this the three knights variation. Next, black plays bishop to c5, developing the bishop, and this next move is a really cool move by Capablanca. He sets up a nice tactic by playing knight captures pawn on e5, which at first glance might look like a mistake because the knight on c6 can simply capture that knight, and the trade does not look very good for Capablanca, but Capablanca has a nice tactic, an example of a double attack on this next move. Do you see the double attack for the white pieces? And it is pawn to d4, creating a fork. When one piece is attacking two pieces, the pawn is threatening to capture both the bishop and the knight, and black will lose one of those pieces and Capablanca will get his lost piece back. For example, if the bishop were to retreat, we could simply capture the knight. And if the knight were to retreat somewhere, then we could capture the bishop. So black understands that they're going to lose a piece, so they might as well get something in return if they're going to lose one. So black plays bishop captures e4. Next, Capablanca recaptures with the queen, and the material is even, with white having captured a bishop and a pawn, and black having captured a knight and a pawn. So queen captures on d4 does threaten the knight on e5, so black defends the knight by playing queen to f6. Next, Capablanca plays knight to b5 with the threat of the knight jumping to c7, which would fork the king and the rook. For example, if it were white's move, knight to c7 would win the rook. After the king moves out of check, the knight could simply capture the rook and would be a rook up. So, knight to b5, creating a threat, and black responded by protecting that pawn. They played king to d8. So one thing we know is if you move your king in chess, then you lose the right to make the castle move. And it's not the end of the world if you don't castle, but castling or planning to castle is a really good thing. Highly recommend it for my beginner and intermediate students, for everyone for that matter. So we have king to d8 protecting the pawn, and next up Capablanca has a very devious plan to trick his opponent, and luckily for us in this game it works. Queen to c5. And there are two ideas with this move. One of which is the queen could capture the pawn on c7 if it were white's turn with check, and that queen would be protected by the knight. For example, the king is not allowed to capture the queen because that would put the king in check with the knight. So this is one of the threats that Capablanca had in mind, and his opponent saw this threat and prevented the queen from capturing the pawn on c7 by playing knight to c6. But what Capablanca's opponent did not see was the other threat, which happens to be much greater. So feel free to pause your video. It is white to move and win. We'll give you a few seconds. If you found the checkmate, congratulations. If not, the move that wins for white is the crushing queen to f8 checkmate. We have check with the queen, and there is simply no way to stop that threat. The king has no squares to move to. They would both be check, and there is no black piece that could block by going in between the king and the queen. and there is no way to capture white's queen on f8. So game over. Capablanca wins this game in spectacular fashion. I hope you guys enjoyed today's chess video. Please stay tuned for more. Thank you.